Hey everybody, today we've got some polling, and would you believe it's already time for the monthly swing state morning consult / Bloomberg poll. Feels like we just did this, but let's not waste any time, let's get right into it. The headline is half of swing state voters fear violence around U.S. election. And then we've got President Joe Biden trails Donald Trump by 4 percentage points across 7 battleground states in monthly tracking poll. So I like to take a look at this poll every month because they take a look at the key swing states. You can never just focus too much on one poll, but we've got 7 states in one, and the sample size for this poll was just under 5,000 registered voters. In the individual swing states, it ranges from the mid-400s to the high 700s, and this was done May 7th to the 13th. So keep in mind the margin of error, but this first section covers worries about violence surrounding the election, and it's not partisan. Roughly equal shares of Democrats and Republicans hold that fear, and it's even more common among independents. So there's apprehension and anxiety in the air. I think regardless of which side wins, there's going to be a ton of excuses either way. But this is all still pre-Memorial Day. There is a lot of time left. It's not even the summer yet. It says 6 in 10 swing state voters worried about misinformation, while 46% expressed similar concerns about foreign interference. I think depending on how those things are defined, that could easily affect the level of concern. They've got a table here that asks how much do you trust each of the following, and it's almost an even split for all 3 metrics. The last one, that the election will be free from misinformation, that has the least amount of confidence. Then it talks about unrest associated with each side over the past few years. We've got the George Floyd riots, and we've got the January 6th riot, and there's pretty much a deep partisan divide on almost every issue. Take a look at this sentence. It says 9 in 10 Republican swing state voters said the national economy was better off under Trump, but only 13% of Democratic voters hold that view. In one sense, that is pretty astounding, but in another sense, I kind of expect it at this point. I do think if everything was exactly the same about the economy, but the parties in power were different, then we would see almost an opposite reaction. So a lot of times it's not necessarily about what's happening. It's just about who's running the show. That's just pretty much how it is in politics these days. Now let's get down to the swing state polling. Across every state, Trump is up by 4, 48 to 44. That's a narrower margin than it was last month. In Arizona, Trump is up 5, 49 to 44. Again, that's a little bit narrower than last month. In Georgia, Trump is up 3, 47 to 44. That definitely has narrowed up. In Michigan, Biden is ahead by 1, 46 to 45. And Biden's lead there has also narrowed up slightly. In Nevada, we've got a wild swing. It's tied at 47. But last month, Trump was up by 8. Nevada also did have the smallest sample size, but still an 8-point swing in less than a month. That is unusual. It's also the first time Trump has not been leading in any of the 6 most recent polls. It's also different than some other recent polling we've seen out of Nevada. It goes to show you just don't know what to expect. Moving on to North Carolina, Trump has a clear advantage there by 7, 49 to 42. Pennsylvania is close, but Trump is up by 2, 48 to 46. And in Wisconsin, it's pretty much a dead heat. Trump is up by 1, 47 to 46. So most of these states narrowing up since the previous poll. And one last thing they did not really show in this poll was if you add Kennedy into the head-to-head matchup with Biden and Trump, then Trump leads in 6 of the 7 states. Michigan is the one where Biden is up. He's up by 2. Nevada had the biggest shift, going from a tie to Trump being up by 5. So they're not really mentioning Kennedy, but in this poll, it looks like he pulls a little bit more from Biden. I always say neither side should get complacent. Trump has had advantages in most of the polls, but there's so much time left that the margins are close enough that you really shouldn't take anything for granted. Now, the next few paragraphs I think are relevant because they talk about how Trump has been in court the past month, and Biden has had more time to get out there and do some events and campaign. So we'll have to see what happens when that trial wraps up. If the verdict is guilty, that certainly could have at least somewhat of a negative impact on Trump. But if it's an acquittal or a hung jury, then they could easily be a boost for Trump as he heads full speed into campaign season. The next section covers Biden and Israel. And Biden here could be between a rock and a hard place. It says compared to the November poll, fewer respondents say Biden is doing the right amount to help Israel. Increasing numbers say he's either doing too much or too little. They've got a graph here, and that's a tough issue to navigate. But I do think it's another issue that Trump benefits from by not being in power. We've got half of swing state voters oppose the pro-Palestinian campus protests, while only 28% support them. And then the last thing they cover here is the VP pick for Trump. They throw out a bunch of names and they check on the favorability ratings. It says Ben Carson has the highest favorability ratings with Republican voters. I'm a little surprised by that, but at the same time, Ben Carson has been around a while. If you look at the table showing the full favorabilities, I assume this is just for Republican voters, but a lot of these people nobody's ever heard of. Byron Donalds, Doug Burgum, and Elise Stefanik are all over a majority support that say they've never heard of. J.D. Vance is right there at 49. So Elise Stefanik has been talking talked about for months, and we've been hearing about Burgum the last couple of weeks. And even with all that, a lot of people have no idea who they are. So all the way on the other end, we've got a couple that people have actually heard of. We got Marco Rubio and Ben Carson. Carson's favorables are higher than Rubio. I think Carson is an unlikely pick because he's never held elected office, and he is a super nice guy, but I think he might be just a little bit too laid back. But on the other hand, he would definitely not upstage Trump at all. I'm not sure if he could handle the spotlight. He did run for president himself, so maybe it does end up being Carson. But I would think Trump would want to pick someone that's a little bit more closer to politics itself, someone a little bit more establishment friendly like Tim Scott. A lot of people have been talking about Doug Burgum. I don't think it would be Byron Donalds. J.D. Vance seems very unlikely. Kristi Noem is pretty much already out of the running. Maybe Stefanik, maybe Gabbard or Rubio, maybe it's somebody else entirely. But it is one of the big remaining mysteries for the fundamentals of this campaign. So as always, we're going to see what happens. But that pretty much recaps this monthly morning consult poll. It looks like things have tightened up a little bit, but overall Trump probably does have the slight advantage, at least according to the polling. It is pretty much wide open in the Rust Belt, and there's a lot of time left. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this poll? We've been looking at it every month, so do you think anything has changed since April? Are you especially surprised by how Nevada changed 8 points? What do you think about the concerns voters have surrounding the election? And how about everything surrounding Trump's trial, the situation with Israel, and Trump's running mate? Let me know what you think down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.